from the past.
Please listen carefully.
CoCo.
Welcome to the CoCo Crew Podcast. A delicious adventure into the world of retro computing news and information. Featuring the Tandy Color Computer.
Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?
CoCo.
All right, welcome, CoCo Cruisers. You're listening to episode 63 of the CoCo Crew Podcast. I, of course, am John Linville, and I'm here with my brothers in arms here, Mr. Neil Blanchard. Hello, Neil.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Mike Rowan. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
And Mr. Boise Pete. Hello, Boise.
Hello, everybody.
So, getting along. The heat of the dog days of summer are upon us, although this last week of August with temperatures in the low 80s Fahrenheit has actually been rather nice here compared to July, which was like 2 weeks of 90-degree days or whatever. Anyway, things are moving along. We're in the midst of the U.S. national political conventions for the national parties there. Very exciting television, let me tell you what. And it's tough that we have to compete with that with our audio show, but I think we may be in the running. How's everyone doing? I think everyone's doing pretty well. CoCo Fest is coming up. We got, about 8 months to go until CoCo Fest. So that's, of course, CoCo Fest 2021, but I think they were still planning to call it the 29th annual. It's like somebody needs to explain to someone what annual means, I guess. But anyway, who knows what that's going to be like. That's just Glenside. They'll do what they want. And, of course, with the CoCo Fest is 8 months away, then we've got Tandy Assembly is roughly 14 months away. So a little bit over a year away, but of course, unfortunately, the Tandy Assembly plans got caught up in the ongoing COVID situation. Decided it was not prudent to have, not worth having. I don't know. We're afraid no one was going to show up, I guess is what it came down to. So how's everyone doing? Or what are we working on these days? Anybody got a current project or anything exciting going on? Everybody like me still just to overcome with grief over their loss of freedom and good times and whatever else. I've been trying to dig up a project. Haven't had a lot of luck. I've not been super decided to do something either. But I don't know. Just it's getting to be an old story, but still just sort of caught up with the feeling sorry for myself. What about you guys? Anything?
Well, I've been working on a project. Actually, I just released it on the social media forums about a half an hour before this recording. The Gamester is officially ready for order. That's the Tandy arcade joystick I've been working on throughout the pandemic, and it's finally here and ready to take orders.
Cool.
It looks really nice.
Looks really nice. Could be sturdy and fun. Looking forward to that.
Built to last. All good quality components and made of real wood.
Cool.
I can't decide if I want birch or OSB.
I'm sure.
Well, what kind of wood did you use, Neil?
The base model is going to be it's pine wood, so it's a real wood. It's not MDF.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to have to go with.
You can custom order the wood you want, though, right?
Exactly. So, any types of wood you want. I mean, as long as I can have access to it here, it's definitely will be
Canadian maple.
There you go.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, it's. I hope you can get hickory up there. The Woodwright shop's favorite wood. So.
Yeah, and different stains too. Whatever finish you want on it. You can even get it painted if you want.
Looks
That's fine
good,
too.
Cool. Very exciting.
And I do want to give props to you, John, because that is your schematic. So that if it wasn't for your schematic, I wouldn't be able to get this project done.
Yeah, well, it's a good solid design then. Should work fine. I do occasionally know what I'm doing on some of this stuff. I know it's hard to believe. No, a little frustrated seeing some posts on the Facebook group of people talking about CoCo 1 composite video mods and asking questions. I know I've posted references to the tech segment I did on that months ago, posted the same references for these same people that are asking the same questions. Like, do you guys read? I don't know. It's a little frustrating.
The solution is dirt cheap, too.
Yeah, it is, and ready-made and not hard to do, and
Yeah.
well, whatever. Some people would prefer to do their own based on circuit schematic that they found, the internet somewhere.
Well, you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mike, I think tell us about something you've been working on.
Well, yeah, I've been tinkering with Raspberry Pi lately. So
Cool.
I've been working with Pi drive wire on Raspberry Pi. I got a little OS 9 rig set up with Pi drive wire on the Raspberry Pi.
Cool.
I'll probably put a video together on that. And I'm also looking at running it on the BeagleBone Black.
Yeah,
Cool.
So,
that should be cool.
neat package. Probably the most well-maintained drive wire at this point.
Yeah. The OS 9 that you can get for the modern ARM boards, does Python run on that?
I don't know if Alan has that going or not.
Yeah. That'd be cool if you could use your modern ARM board, Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone or whatever, and run OS 9 on that, and then run the Pi drive wire on that to serve to your OS 9 run on the CoCo. At some point, you're reaching an inception point, I think. Anyway.
That would be cool, though.
Yeah, and I also think that OS 9 for ARM needs a drive wire driver for its own.
Sure. Well, I know just the person to do that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Anything else? Any other current projects? How about any new acquisitions? Anybody got anything off of eBay recently that's cool or anything like that?
It's getting harder to find cool stuff on eBay.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it kind of comes and goes. I just find it depends a little bit on, of course, how hard I look.
Well, there's that,
The more I
too.
look, the more likely I'm to find some stuff. I picked up a collection of T&D discs.
That's a subscription discs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a collection of those. They're probably all already on the archive, but I always like the actual physical artifacts.
Oh,
Sure. Yeah.
Hadn't had a chance to go through them yet, but it looks like it'll be fun to do at some point. They came in from Nova Scotia, which is kind of funny because, before COVID hit, I would have been in Nova Scotia actually this week. So it's like the universe's way of giving me the finger or something, I guess. But anybody else buy anything cool?
I picked up a one of those PC option transcopy boards.
Oh yeah.
ISA card. So it's not CoCo related, but kind of because now you can copy CoCo protected discs with that.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool. I have one. I haven't had it plugged in and used it in 25 years now, but could probably find it if I needed to.
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
remember it used to be kind of useful for some of that.
I'm gonna install it in a Tandy 1000. Kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Be copying up floppies all over the place, huh?
Yep.
Well, it's a little bit of an introduction. At least we got our feet wet. But why don't we go ahead and take our first little break, and then we'll be back with some announcements.
Since 1994, Cloud9 has been making cool stuff for your color computer, like the Cloud9 Mini Flash, a flash cartridge for your color computer or Dragon. The Mini Flash gives you a total of 4 16K banks of flash memory. You can easily flash ROM images into any of the 4 16K banks. Store your favorite DOS ROMs and game packs on the Mini Flash. And the Mini Flash is perfect for prototyping your own ROMs without the need for an EEPROM burner. The Mini Flash comes with flash programming software and test utilities. It's preloaded with HDB-DOS for DriveWire and 2 games from Retro Tinker, CoCo Dooku and Follow CoCo, so you can use the Mini Flash immediately. The Cloud9 Mini Flash works on all Color Computer and Dragon models and is housed in a high-quality injection molded cartridge case. the Mini Flash, only from Cloud9. Cool stuff for your color computer. Visit cloud9tech.com for details.
All right. Welcome back. Now it's time for some announcements. You are, of course, listening to the CoCo Crew Podcast. We are available on Twitter with a Twitter handle at CoCo Crew Podcast. That's @CoCoCrewPodcast. If you're prone to sending tweets, or if you'd like to send tweets, feel free to tweet at us, and we might tweet back at you. Or we might not, because I don't check it that often, but, anything's possible. We are, of course, available on Facebook, where we have a Facebook group called the CoCo Crew Podcast. It's 4 separate words. So come on over, check us out, join the group, exchange some greetings and salutations. Once in a while, I might post a little extra news or some discussion or whatever there, and it'll be great to have you part of the party. Join the party and have some fun. Like I said, we are a podcast, and so along with the RSS feed available at cococrew.org, we are also available via Apple Podcasts, which used to be known as iTunes. We're also available on Google Play. Those are as regular podcasts, and then if you prefer to stream us, we are available for streaming through Spotify, through Stitcher, and available on the service TuneIn, which of course is the service available when you deal with Alexa. If you've got the spy from Amazon hanging out, you can always just say, Alexa, play CoCo Crew Podcast, and you might hear us come up. Of course, for some time we've been taking our audio podcast and doing a little post-processing on it to turn it into a video form that we upload to YouTube. So you get all of our episodes on YouTube. The biggest advantage to using YouTube to listen to us is YouTube does a pretty decent job with producing subtitles. So if you have any trouble dealing with our accents, or if perhaps English is not a first language for you, sometimes the subtitles can be useful. So if you think that might apply to you, then feel free to check us out on YouTube. See, we are still a member of the Throwback Network. I'm not sure how much activity the Throwback Network is getting these days, but we're still listed along with a number of other older, similarly themed podcasts, things referencing several vintage computers, video games, and some 80s culture stuff. And if you are caught up on the podcast and looking for something else to listen to, then we recommend that you check out the Throwback Network. We are also listed on the Game by Game Podcast Information Hub. This also is a list of retro-themed podcasts, in this case centered around gaming, retro computers. There's a whole lot of them there. So, again, if you're caught up on the CoCo Crew and still looking for something else to listen to, then we recommend you check out the Game by Game Podcast Information Hub. Audio for the CoCo Crew Podcast is hosted by Cyber Ears. If you have a need to host audio of your own on the internet, whether it be for your own podcast or perhaps for your church or business or whatever else, whatever other reason you might have to host audio on the internet, then we recommend that you check out Cyber Ears, where you will get your audio, your terms. If you want to reach out to the hosts of the CoCo Crew Podcast, we have a few email addresses available. The first 3 will reach all of the hosts. These, of course, are show, SHOW, at cococrew.org. That's COCOCREW.org. We also have podcast, PODCAST, at cococrew.org. And feedback, FEEDBACK, at cococrew.org. Again, each of those will reach all the hosts of the podcast. So, if you want to send us feedback or tips on news items or anything else like that, feel free to read any of those that you can remember. If you want to reach just one of the hosts, I'm available, of course, as John, JOHN, at cococrew.org. Neil is available as Neil, NEIL, at cococrew.org. Mike is available as Mike, MIKE, at cococrew.org. And Boise is available as, of course, Boise, BOISY, at cococrew.org. All right. Well, that's our normal stock announcements. Here's where we would normally like to cover events happening in the real world, which, of course, is very limited these days. The VCF Midwest, which was scheduled for September 12th and 13th of 2020, of course, has been canceled. We do have the VCF East 2020 virtual hybrid show. So originally, VCF East had postponed itself quite late into the year, or at least it seemed so at the time. And now, as the date approaches, they decided to further change from an in-person event to an online event. And that, of course, is now scheduled for October 10th through 11th of 2020. So if that's the kind of thing you want to check into for VCF East, the link is available in the show notes. And, of course, we did have Tandy Assembly was scheduled for October 30th through the November 1st of 2020, and unfortunately we've had to cancel that one as well. So currently the only thing we've got on the books of interest is, of course, CoCo Fest 2021. Which, of course, is currently scheduled for April 24th through 25th of 2021. Why don't we take another little break, and then we'll be back with the news.
You can always find back-to-school value and selection at your local Radio Shack store. Save now on our wide range of popular calculators. Our children's learning calculator is just $10.95. Or how about the solar-powered EC401 calculator? It never needs batteries, and it's on sale now for just $22.95. For older students, the EC499 full scientific calculator features 50 functions for just $34.95. Off to college this fall? Our famous realistic Minimus 7 speakers offer big sound in a small space. They're less than 8 inches high, but deliver up to 40 watts of big, rich sound. On sale for just $39.95 each. And for education and entertainment for the entire family, it's the TRS-80 color computer. Learn to write your own programs or choose from a large library of plug-in program packs. The color computer comes with 4,000 characters of internal memory, 8 colors, and a built-in RS-232 interface for easy communication ability. The color computer is specially priced at just $359. That's $40 off the catalog price. For these back-to-school specials and others, be sure to visit your local Radio Shack store. Radio Shack, a Tandy company.
All right. The first story this month is from NDC conferences at YouTube. It's The Art of Code with Dylan Beatty. This is about an hour long, I think. It's definitely worth watching. It's pretty interesting because it's featuring code, some really clever code. In some cases, the actual source code looks like what the program draws. They got the Mandelbrot one is one I was thinking of. They got a program that writes the same program in another language, and then that program writes it in another language, and it goes through 20 languages until it comes back and writes the same original source code. So definitely different and interesting.
I thought it was cool. It just reemphasizes the notion of playing with computers, just to have fun with them, or maybe to express yourself. But sometimes it feels weird to be playing with a thing that, as you have to do the drudgery of work all day with it, and then why do you want to play with it at night, right? But
right. I'll see. Our next one is from Mike Lukides on COBOL, and this is associated with O'Reilly Publishing, and this is a good article and description about COBOL, what its state is, and what kind of people they need, not only to maintain COBOL, but how to drag it into the 21st century, if you will. That it takes kind of a balance of it's kind of a specialty.
Yeah.
Interesting article.
Yeah, it'd be easy for people to get the idea like COBOL's my secret pet hobby or something. Bringing these out, it's just they seem to be popping up a lot in the technology-related news these days. So that's why they keep ending up on the list. It seems like something worth talking about. That it's not technically retro and not CoCo at all, but still seems like the right sort of topic for the group, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree, because you can kind of consider it a retro programming language. I mean,
absolutely.
It's still in use, but there's definitely careers in that if you're interested. So.
Yep.
All right, this next one from Robert Allen Murphy, Nostromo, Assembling the Blocks. This one's kind of interesting. He's outlining current to-do list, just kind of summarizing kind of the technologies that are available now for developing games. Goes over sound, goes over video, music.
Yeah, he's got, it's a development blog, and it's kind of big. And it's been going on. I think, I don't know if he just either didn't post about it at first or if he posted somewhere where I just didn't see it, which is certainly possible. Sometimes you got to remember not everybody's on Discord. So
Right.
Got a development blog. It looks kind of neat. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Like he's put a lot of effort into it and writing stuff up, and certainly got a lot of chapters. So
Yeah.
So definitely check it out and see what you can learn from Robert. If you got something that he can learn from you, I'm sure he'd love to hear it from you.
Our next one is from Paul Lilly at hothardware.com. Captain Kirk's favorite 80s Commodore computer returns for retro glory with the VIC-20. So it looks like they're going to be reproducing the VIC-20.
Yeah, so I think this. I've seen some coverage of this. It's not my bag, baby, but it's. I saw some stuff, and they have a Commodore 64 inspired product that has some pretty cool features, and then I think this VIC-20 one has similarly a lot of features. There's bound to be a few people in the group that have some desire or some interest in the Commodore stuff, and if nothing else, it kind of illustrates what a retro-themed computing project in the modern-day toy store or whatever might look like. And so it's something to add to your wish list. Pretty cool.
Yeah, upgraded with USB ports and HDMI. That's a big step forward for the VIC-20.
Wow.
HDMI stuff is everybody thinks they need it nowadays, and it's already got it for that one.
The next news item is a short film about 8-bit computer games by Andy Rimmick. This is a YouTube video that shows a series of, it looks like, various screenshots and playthroughs of different games on different platforms. I see games by Activision on Atari, Pitfall, Boulder Dash, Astromash, Tron, Donkey Kong. Just looks like a survey of 8-bit video games, if you will.
Yeah, I think it was a Kickstarter that I didn't hear about it until it was pretty much done with its funding phase or whatever. But at some point, you can still buy the product one way or another. And so it's something to be aware of, and maybe you can get it for yourself, or maybe you'll be able to download it or play it from Netflix or something in the future and be aware of it. So.
The next news item is Touchdown, Usborne computer game by our good friend of the show, Mr. Jim Gary.
Yep.
This looks like a YouTube video as well, showing a game. It almost looks like a lunar lander kind of game.
Yeah, I think it is. A touchdown is not football in this case.
Yeah, it's a lunar lander.
But yeah, Jim always cranking them out. Very cool to see that he's, at the very least, that he keeps on going and going.
It's amazing what that man can do with pixels, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The next news item is Dragon, MSX2 Plus music, and Effects in Action by Mr. Per Surratt. This is yet another YouTube video, and it shows this is a game that Per is working on with some pretty impressive music from what I could hear when I played it.
Yeah, he had that adventure game designer porting stuff to the CoCo and the Dragon, and I guess he sort of adopted this Dragon MSX2 project or card or whatever that's in production or will soon be in production. And so he's created an output to target that from the arcade game designer so that you can get the upgraded graphics and sound for that. So pretty cool. Good
job there, Per.
Yeah, very good.
The next news item is Retro Magazine World issue number 1 English is here. It looks like this is a Facebook post. There is a new retro computing magazine or called Retro Magazine World. Looks like this is heralding the introduction.
Yeah, I think maybe the magazine has been around for some time, but it's not been in English. So this is the first English one, at least. So probably the first one that's consumable by the majority of the listeners here, but could be wrong. Moving on, let's see the next item. Coming from Jonathan, I'm going to mess this up. Jonathan Felchlin. Jonathan, if I mess it up, it's not on purpose. I apologize. Feel free to send me a note and let me know how to pronounce your name. Anyway, so while recapping may not always be necessary, it can be helpful at times. So this is kind of a moderation approach. A lot of people say you should always recap, and some of us have started saying, well, maybe not always. When it's like, yeah, okay, maybe not always, but sometimes it's good. And so he contacted Console 5. I don't know much about them, but sounds like a company that's out there producing recap kits for various electronic items. He had them set one up for a CoCo 2. So if you're looking to recap your CoCo 2 and don't want to have to track down all the parts yourself, looks like they've got them available for about $6. You definitely want to check your model number before you buy the cap kits, and just to be sure that you're getting something that's going to work. Pretty good place to get them. Spend $6. You don't have to track down any kind of huge order or anything like that. So probably a good way to go if you think you need to recap your CoCo 2.
And I can vouch, Console 5 is a very reputable website. I have ordered from them before numerous items, fast shipping, and quality products.
Cool. Well, good to know.
And you get a surprise with every order. Well, at least every order I've got. You get an atomic fireball. It's a really nice candy.
Oh, boy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I know a lot of times when I order from PCBWay, a lot of times the box will have something in it, and sometimes it's be some, weird to me Japanese candy, or a little solder kit for something with some lights and blinking stuff or whatever. It's always nice to get that little extra thing, whatever it is, Cool. Very exciting to hear. All right, moving on. The person behind this, the next one is David Schmink. And if you were an Apple II person, that name would probably be more familiar to you. And he's been involved as part of a larger effort to do some game creation, basically like adventure-style game creation. But as part of the project he's been working on, they've actually developed a programming language, or programming environment he refers to as Plasma. I don't know if that stands for anything or not. So the ASM part suggests that it's something akin to assembly, but maybe not. Maybe it's higher level language than that. I don't know a lot about it. I remember thinking it was pretty cool when I went to Kansas Fest several years ago, but page from now. But anyway, Plasma 2.0 Alpha 1 has been released. Again, they're producing some adventure games that make use of this language. So it runs on top of a 16-bit virtual machine. So theoretically, if somebody would adopt this project and port the output of Plasma over to, say, 6809 on the CoCo 3, then that might expand the available game library for the CoCo to some of these newer games. Just a thought if you're looking for something to do. Plus, it's kind of cool because, programming languages are kind of cool for old computers. So anyway, maybe it's interesting to you, maybe it's not, but I thought it was cool. So check it out.
Remember when we used to play computer games with cheap plastic joysticks? Our fingers would ache for days.
Put the past behind you. Introducing the Gamester. The Gamester is the ultimate 2-button joystick controller for your color computer, Dragon, and Tandy 1000. The Gamester features a genuine arcade-quality joystick with 2 large arcade-quality cherry switch buttons on a single surface. Best of all, the hardware is mounted in a sturdy wooden cabinet. It sits comfortably on your lap or on your desk. Experience the difference that super high-quality, heavy-duty components make in your gameplay. No more finger fatigue. Responsive button switches. Sturdy components that can take the punishment of even the most enthusiastic player. Every Gamester is built to order. Choose the wood for your cabinet. Choose custom paint or stain and finishes. Select the cable length for your Gamester. Choose a left-handed configuration, or add adapters for your Dragon computer. The Gamester is designed to last a lifetime. To build yours, simply reach out to Neil Blanchard by email. Neil@CoCoCrew.org. That's NEIL@CoCoCrew.org. Experience genuine arcade controller action for all of your favorite color computer, Dragon, and Tandy 1000 computer games. For true arcade action, it's the Gamester. The Himalayas, Nepal.
You have traveled far seeking answers.
Yes, I seek the ultimate happiness.
You may see the Master now.
Your Eminence, I've walked for 10 days for an audience with you.
Dude, come on in here.
Am I in the right place?
Totally.
You hold the secret of true happiness?
Yeah, check it out. It's Screen Machine.
The ultimate graphics text screen enhancer, Screen Machine, is a machine language extension to BASIC that enables you to easily mix high-res graphics and text in your programs. A user-definable 224-character set featuring true lowercase and graphic characters like cars, planes, tanks, and more. Support mixed text modes from 8x16 to 64x24 with full print at, tab, and comma fields. Full support of underline, subscript, superscript, reverse video, top and bottom scroll protection, double width, and full color characters. Screen Machine can be used in games, word processors, utilities. The possibilities are limitless.
You're right. This is true happiness.
Gnarly.
I better go now. I have a 10-day walk back ahead of me.
Dude, that's totally military. I took the helicopter.
Screen Machine from Sugar Software.
The next item comes as an article by Kelly Tycho at USA Today. Nintendo Super Mario Bros. Video game sets record selling for $114,000. And the question, do you have a sealed copy? It's hard to imagine paying the cost of a house, even a small one, for Super Mario Brothers. It has to be one of the most popular common games for the Nintendo. I haven't dug into this very much. Maybe there's something special about that one, this particular copy. Well, being sealed, I guess, makes a big difference, but I'm not sure it makes $100,000 worth of difference.
Not to me.
Not to me.
What about a sealed copy of Scripsit?
Well, yeah, well, it'd be about worth the same to me, I think. But
I'm sure there's a warehouse of those.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, so the point here being if your significant other is giving you trouble about your bank account from spending too much money on CoCo stuff, say, well, at least I'm not a Nintendo collector. Learn about this one. There you go. Next story, so this comes from Robert Allen Murphy. Percom System Monitor, also known as Psymon, P-S-Y-M-O-N. So I guess it's supposed to sound like Simon, like I know my name is Simon. So it's a 1K 6809 assembly source. It's a monitor program, which was originally released with Percom to run on their SS50 based CPU card, which they call the SPC9. But so it's a monitor program. Well, it's got some of the features you'd find like when you run EdTasm or when you're trying to run the debugger or whatever. You can look at memory and change the values of things and whatever. If you're like me, it's kind of exciting to hear that the code's been ported to the CoCo. I've got some similar projects that would benefit from that, where I've got monitor programs running on the CoCo that then talk to the Bluetooth interfaces and whatever to make remote debugging from my laptop on my CoCo possible. So maybe I should pick up what he's done here and adapt some of that. Just pretty cool. If you like using monitor-style programs, it might be exciting to you. If you don't know what a monitor-style program is, I think I had a tech segment at some point earlier in the series that maybe we should go check out. But anyway, I was excited to see it. So you get to hear about it now? Very cool.
That's cool. There's a couple of different ones out there on the Color Computer Archive as well. I think a MicroWorks one, and there was a C-Bug or something. But yeah, it's always cool to see these different monitors, and good to see another one added.
Cool. Yep. They each have their features.
Yes.
Our next news article is from Chibi Ikumas.
Chibi Ikumas, I think. I forget what it is. A chibi is some sort of a monster thing or something in anime culture. And I think Akuma maybe as well. So I think it means like something like child demon or something like that. I could have that completely wrong. So if you do feel free to send feedback if I've got it completely wrong or laugh at me or whatever. I'm just going by things my kids have said over the years. So
I'd be curious to know, but it's more than I would know. It's a YouTube video. I swear this is for me. I think, John, you probably picked this news article for me. It's Learn 6809 Assembly. It's coding lesson number 1. And here's the kicker. For absolute beginners. Well, that's definitely me.
Yeah. Of course, it's also for the Vectrix, if I'm not mistaken, right? But
It shows in the description of Dragon 32 as well.
oh, does it? Okay. Well, there
Okay,
you go.
cool.
Be very close to the CoCo.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's a cool video. I'm definitely going to check that out because, as I keep saying, I'd like to learn 6009 assembly. So, all right, our next news article is from Newsmakers Tech. It's another YouTube video unboxing the color computer and micro color computer family, Tandy Lab. If you want to relive unboxing a CoCo, it's a video for you.
That's pretty cool. And it's one of those. It seems like the CoCo gets a little more attention than it used to from some of the external media, shall we say. And I don't know exactly why that is, and whose drum is beating the following to to give it more attention to the CoCo. But it's good to see some attention from. I'm not sure if this person's really an outsider or not. Certainly, they're enough of an insider to have CoCos and MC10s to deal with, but just cool to see us. It's not just the VIC-20s and the ZX Spectrums of the world getting unboxed. So we get unboxed too.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I've always liked those unboxing videos. All right, our next news article is from Chet Simpson. He's released his new game, Digger 3. You've probably seen him online, definitely on Facebook. He's been doing a lot of beta testing, just, these videos of him playing his game and people joining in, commenting. It's been kind of cool. I've watched a few of them. I think he's released the first set of levels, anyhow. You can download your copy and give it a beta test.
It's a good-looking game.
Yeah, certainly a beautiful game.
Yeah, is it
It'll
ever?
be a lot of fun when it's fully available.
When you look at that, you really think it's an Amiga running. The graphics just look so nice.
Definitely a talented programmer.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of talented programmers, got another one here from Jim Gary. He's done an update to Aclabet.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called, Aclabet. I'm not sure.
Updated the font rendering for the MC10 port. That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So if you got the old version, you can update to the new one.
The next news item is I was asked to document the process to replace the belts on the Tandy CCR82 computer cassette player by Brian Shoebring, a.k.a. The Shoe. This is a post on Facebook where Brian details how to replace, it looks like there are 3 belts for the CCR82, which I'm sure these tend to get old over time. These tape recorders are probably, 30-something years old. And I never owned a CCR82, or at least not initially. My very first CoCo cassette recorder was a CCR81. So I would look forward to seeing the belt replacements for those as well. Good work from Brian.
Replacing the belts on these sort of things is really not too difficult. It's helpful if somebody tells you the exact size. I do find I was able to fix one. I was able to get a collection of belts and just a grab bag and just kind of picked until I found one that seemed about the right size and made it work. One thing that a lot of people won't realize until they've done at least one such belt job, for lack of a better term, is that sometimes these old rubber belts, at some point it's like somebody pressed a button and they just turned to goo.
Yeah.
And so you may have to clean a lot of stuff with a Q-tip and some solvent or something,
And let me tell you, that stuff stains too. It's bad.
Yeah, it is terrible.
All right, the next news item is Charles Bartlett's CoCo 3 game, Ono, working on MC10 by a good friend of the show, Mr. Jim Gary. This is a game that's based on the Uno card game. I guess it's called Ono, so there's no trademark or copyright infringement. Just based on the video, it looks complete. Good work, Jim.
Yeah, looks pretty cool. I like that notion of saying Ono instead of Uno.
Yeah, Ono. The next news item is Old School Disk Partitioning by Warner Loesch. There's a blog post on blogspot.com, and it looks like it's going into disk partitionings going back all the way to the huge cartridge disks from the, 60s and 70s. This is very interesting. I just kind of started glancing over it, and there's a lot of good information here. This is very interesting.
It's a little deep, definitely, and it's sort of Unix-oriented, but it is interesting, and it probably has a level of detail you won't find many other places without going off the deep end.
Good stuff. The next news item is progress on OS 9 Level 2 using 4 kilobyte block size by Soren Rogue. So Soren has been working on an emulator for OS 9 for a long time. I believe it was initially written in C, and I believe he did one in Java. And it looks like he has Level 2 version for the Level 2 version of OS 9 for memory management, and he has it working with 4K blocks, which is a pretty cool achievement. Good work on that, Soren.
Yeah, definitely a lot of in-depth work deep into the OS 9 kernel there, I think, or deep enough. But pretty cool. Not many other people are going to be digging around at that level, so...
All right, our next news article is from Jim Gary. Another game scavenged from the Alice. Maybe you have this game, John.
Maybe.
The description Jim writes is a weird puzzle game. Looks kind of cool here in the video.
Yeah, it does look pretty cool.
Just figured you might have that because you're collecting a lot of Alice stuff these days.
I have some Alice stuff. I don't know if I've seen this one or not, but still pretty cool.
Another one from Jim Gary. He's ported Missile Command by Andrew Black, Dragon User, 1983. This actually looks really good. Like the graphics are pretty sharp on it. Ported it to the MC10. It looks like you have to use the MCX 128, the expansion, for this one to run. It shows the description here. So
yeah, it looks that way. But it may just be for the memory.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next news article is from James Vincent at The Verge. Scientists rename human genes to stop Microsoft Excel from misreading them as dates.
Yeah, this is funny, right? It's like this is one where you've adapted a human process to the tool, which is something I try to fight at work all the time, and comes up more often than not, more often than you'd think. But that's my position is if we can adapt a tool to what we're doing, it'd be better to adapt the tool to what we're doing than to adapt what we're doing to the tool. I think that makes sense from a human perspective. Here they're adapting what the humans are doing to what the tool does. And maybe it's just as, maybe it's a you can't fight City Hall kind of thing if they're using the spreadsheet just too entrenched or whatever. But funny how sometimes people don't want to solve a technical problem with a human solution rather than vice versa. But oh well.
Yeah, just kind of a testament to how widely Excel is used.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Next news article is from John Corbett at LWN. Historical programming language groups disappearing from Google. Now, this was a sad one. I saw this a little while ago, and looks like Forth and Lisp has been removed.
Yeah, like I said, old Usenet groups or whatever, archives from... Now, granted, archives from the 80s or whatever, how useful are they? I don't know. Probably depends on whether you're a historian or not and how far back you need to go on something. But still can't help but feel like we've lost a little bit of heritage there. Or surely somebody has these archives somewhere, or I hope so. Or if not, hopefully Google will cooperate with somebody to get them somewhere. But
just a shame for the space it takes. I mean, you think just to, just leave them.
Well, nowadays, right, for the amount of space involved, you're probably talking about, a micro SD card or something.
Right.
Since 1994, Cloud9 has made cool stuff for your color computer. Now Cloud9 is proud to announce the 2MB Triad Plus memory expansion board. The Triad Plus works in two ways. Purchase just the Triad Plus board to expand your Color Computer 3 from 128K to 512K of RAM. Or add the new Protector Plus MMU to access the full 2 megabytes of static RAM aboard the Triad Plus. And the Protector Plus MMU utilizes full buffering to protect your CPU. Unlike previous 2 megabyte memory expansions for the CoCo 3, the Triad Plus operates seamlessly without the need for special patches, configuration, or workarounds. Games like Donkey Kong Remix and Sierra Adventure games simply work without hassle. And the Triad Plus will reduce your CoCo's power consumption and heat generation. The Triad Plus and Protector Plus MMU, only from the innovative engineering of Cloud9. Cool stuff for your color computer. Visit cloud9tech.com for details.
Turn any color computer with Extended Basic into a complete disk system with the new FD501 Color Thin Line Disk from Radio Shack. Store over 156K of data, write your own disk programs, or use ready-to-run software.
The disk operating system is built into the program pack cartridge that connects the disk drive to your color computer, and the FD501 has room to add a second drive, providing an additional 156K of storage. This month only, purchase a 2-drive FD501 color thin-line disk system for just $359.95. That's a 25% savings. Apply in-store for a CityLine revolving account and pay as low as $20 per month. The FD501 thin-line disk. Only from Radio Shack, a Tandy company.
So, next item, I think this was a tweet. This week, Internet Archive filed this response to the lawsuit brought against us by Hatchet, John Willie & Sons, and Penguin Random House. This is more for, your own interest. If you're interested enough to follow this, you probably are already following on Twitter. You may have already seen this, but if not, here's your pointer. Of course, the Internet Archive is, of course, they do the Internet Wayback Machine, and they also store a whole bunch of uploaded documents and such on a variety of topics, many technology related, and also a lot of old books and maybe some not so old books, which I think is probably the relationship to this lawsuit. But some of us, the Internet Archive is a very important resource that we don't want to see disappear. It might be of interest to a lot of people to see what's going on with that lawsuit. So here you go. There's a pointer. If you haven't already heard about it, you can figure it out. Let's see. Moving on. So we've got a YouTube video from a Jacob Sorber. I think he's probably some sort of computer science professor or similar position. But his video is why should I learn assembly language in 2020? And then in parentheses, complete waste of time, ? And that's what you get from a lot of people, right? Especially kids that don't want to take the extra class. But what's the point of learning assembly language? It's just, arcane, complicated stuff or whatever. There are reasons to learn it, mostly kind of for your own understanding of how computers work and what's happening under the hood and that sort of thing. And so for the same reason, you may want to learn how to gap your own spark plugs. You may want to learn about assembly language just so you know a little more about how the things are actually working. But anyway, it's almost like if I could get somebody else to explain this for me, like in a video or something, that might be helpful. Well, guess what? Here's the link. Check out the video. Anyway, he's got some other computer science related videos that have been popping up for me ever since I found this one. So, you might want to check some of them out. He's not bad. He's a pretty interesting speaker. So check it out. Here's one that's been making the rounds a little bit in the retro community, and a lot of teeheeing and oh my God, whatever. And it's akin to, we learned about how the U.S. missile silos were running off of 8-inch floppies up until like day after yesterday or something like that, day before yesterday. But in this case, it's the 747, a particular version of 747-400, first introduced in 1988. Apparently, they have 3.5-inch floppy drives as part of their electronics package, and they're still receiving critical software updates through 3.5-inch floppy disks. And of course, there's a certain breathlessness to the article, like, oh my God, this amazing piece of thing flying through the air is getting technology updates through this ancient stuff or whatever. And okay, but it still works, and it's not like the 3.5-inch floppy disks are exposed to the air or the drives exposed to the air or whatever. They're pretty well climate controlled, shall we say. So I don't think there's anything really to worry about here. And if nothing else, if it does become a problem, there are floppy disk emulators and such that could be installed.
Yeah. Put a GoTech in there.
Yeah, exactly. And,
yeah, USB, yeah.
And of course, the thing probably preventing that is some kind of certification that would probably cost like $250,000 or something just
that's probably it. Okay. That's probably it. I mean, if it's money's a big factor.
No doubt. But anyway, so it's definitely worded to like, oh my God, we're still using floppies to fly planes. And it's like, well, that's kind of an overstatement. It's not like somebody's pulling one out of their jeans back pocket and shoving it in there and say, okay, we're ready for takeoff. No. Anyway, so don't be too upset about that. And if you get to fly on the 747, especially if you get to go up in the lounge, definitely cool thing to do. So moving on. Okay, this is my favorite news item, I think. So this is from Retro Recipes YouTube channel. It says, how did Ghostbusters know your account balance? So apparently he's talking about the Ghostbusters game that was available specifically for the Commodore 64. Well, it's kind of a non-save game, save game feature, right? So you would have an account balance. So there's a resource system inside the game where you could buy upgrades for your Ghostbusters mobile or whatever, collect money one way or another. And so when you end the game, you'd have an account balance. And I guess when you start the game, you'd give it your name. So I guess I could call you, Fred or Bill or John or whatever. The thing is like you could come back later, totally reboot the machine, even go to somebody else's machine. And as long as you entered the same name and the code that they would give you at the end of the game, you'd come back and you'd have the right account balance so for your resources. Well, how did that possibly work? And I'm sure a lot of people can think of some possibilities if you've had any computer programming experience. But still, it's a pretty cool story. So what it comes down to is, check out the video, but it comes down to that the number it would give you as kind of like your key code or whatever, part of that number was encoded your actual account balance, and it also included a checksum that would verify your name that you typed in. Later, when you logged into when you reboot or whatever, restart the game, you'd type in your name and then you type in this game code, this whatever. It could then verify your name, and then if it matched the name you typed in, it could decode from that your balance. It's not exactly award-winning computer science, but I thought it was a pretty cool story. So if you're the kind of geeky programmer that likes bitwise tricks and that sort of thing, maybe you'll appreciate it and check out the video. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, very cool. This next one is from Curtis F. Kaylor. Sample output from my TP10 simulator program, 72 DPI and 600 DPI. Some code that Curtis came up with basically can send text to it and it will generate a TP10 output. And it looks stunningly like a real TP10. Even the 72 dots per inch has the spaces between the pixels. A lot of attention to detail there. Pretty cool. Probably pretty easy to integrate this with like Pi DriveWire, printing feature. I know in Linux it'd be pretty easy to do with some filters.
Pretty cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. If nothing else, it's a cool way to simulate printed output from like you say, from an emulator or something, or possibly capture it through Pi DriveWire or something. We should talk to this guy. Oh wait, I think we're going to. So check out the interview. It should be fun. Pretty cool talking. Thanks, Curtis. That was cool.
Our next one is from Boyson Tech. This is a sneak peek on a new work in progress. And what this is it's a update for the speech and sound cartridge.
Yeah.
And what it is, if you've ever run one of these, correct me if I'm wrong, it only runs at the normal CoCo speed. So if you go into if you issue the high-speed poke, it won't work. So that means you couldn't use it for OS 9, or you couldn't use a high-speed poke on regular CoCo.
Right.
Now there have been some mods. I actually have one where they changed the crystal in it so that it could work at the high speed. So that was one option. And this one looks like it just kind of separates the clock from the CoCo altogether, kind of isolates it. So it's a mod, a little board you can stick into your SSC, and it'll run in either mode. So you aren't banished to low speed or high speed. You can do both. So
right. No, it's pretty cool upgrade. Like you say, it's a switchable kind, so it should just work. It sounds like once it's plugged in. There's just one more thing on this speech pack design. It's kind of tough to program, or at least to get it to work effectively. Like you say, you switch the speed. Part of the circuitry just doesn't work because it is powered from through the clock stuff somehow or whatever. If you're dying to use a sound speech pack or speech sound pack, however you say it, on your double speed to poke, on your CoCo 3 or whatever, this will be a good way to do it. I think you'll still lack much software that can that's useful for that. But, if you're wanting to write software to do that, then this would be a good thing for you to get first. So.
Yeah, cool. Our next one is from James Jones. It's Escape from Color Basic, Basic 09 for Color Basic users. Another great article from James Jones, who is very fluent in Basic 09. And
obviously, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good information here. Maybe a little thick for a casual read, but it's not that long, but it's a lot of good information. And if you're wanting to, especially if you have a Color Basic background and you want to learn more about Basic 09, it's a pretty good way to get into it.
Definitely another good article. Thanks, James.
Yep.
And our final one is from Erico Monterio, a TRS-80 color computer commercial quality action fight game in BASIC. We've covered this in previous shows, and we've got some progress on here. This is cool. There's parts 1, 2, and 3, and you can kind of follow the development of fight game. There's all kinds of good video showing the progress. Pretty cool what you can do.
Yeah, like you say, we had some hints of this game before. They had this 3-part series on vintages and new olds, which as they kind of fills in a bit like a development blog or whatever. Pretty cool. Check it out, see what he's up to, and see his explanations about some of the technology or whatever involved. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that animation's nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. I think that's the end of our news segment for this month. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for all the people contributing in the news items, doing the stuff in the news, shall we say. And I think we may have lost Boise to a weather event, so that's unfortunate. But we'll have to call this segment to a close, take a little break, and then we'll be back with some feedback.
This month in CoCo history. Welcome to This Month in CoCo History, where we explore events in the life of our favorite home computer. I'm Boise Pete, and this month we go back 37 years to the introduction of a color computer peripheral that expanded the system. In August of 1983, just prior to its yearly September release of its annual catalog, Radio Shack announced the availability of the Multipack, a useful, if somewhat largesse add-on to the CoCo. Sporting the same Mercedes gray color of the original color computer, the Multipack plugged into the cartridge connector on the right side of the CoCo and added 3 extra 40-pin connectors arranged from front to back for a total of 4 cartridge slots. Users could plug in up to 4 program packs or cartridge interfaces without having to unplug and replug them into the side of the CoCo, an exercise in frustration and, if not carefully done, a risk to destroying the circuitry on the computer. A convenient slot select switch was located on the front of the unit, allowing users to select which cartridge port was active upon power-up. Another feature of the Multipack was its ability to deliver not only 5 volts but also 12 volts. This would prove useful to the later CoCo 2 and CoCo 3, which didn't bring out 12 volts to their cartridge ports. The feature allowed older peripherals that required 12 volts to work fine on these newer color computers. The Multipack debuted for $299.95, and over the years it would go through several modifications. First, a buff white version of the original gray, and then a later revised, slightly smaller version, which eschewed the rounded edges of the first design with a more angular, edgy one. Today, the Multipack is still a desirable piece of hardware for the serious color computer collector. It has a utility in the hobby, but newer designs built on more modern technology have made it more of a luxury than a hard requirement. Still, an original Multipack on eBay can fetch a hefty price, and no one can deny that its voluminous presence next to a CoCo makes quite a statement. And that's this month in CoCo history.
My dad is the greatest dad in the world. Last weekend, we went to Radio Shack and brought home a brand new 64K CoCo 2. It was so cool powering it up for the first time. And we got lots of cool software. Me and my sister like to play Bingo Math and Downland. Dad and I like Galactic Attack and baseball. Mom uses it too. She uses color scripts and personal finance to balance her checkbook. About the only thing that can make it better would be banning my sister from using it.
Billy, that's enough.
Sorry, Mom.
The new Color Computer 2, only at Radio Shack, the technology store.
All right, CoCo Cruisers, welcome back. Now it's time for some feedback. And of course, our first item of feedback comes from Mr. Fran Purcell, our interview subject from last month. Fran, of course, says, thanks to the gang at the CoCo Crew Podcast for reaching out to interview me. It was a lot of fun. Plus, it was great dusting off some of my old brain cells. Smiley face. And so, Fran, definitely great talking to you. You're a great guy. It's a lot of fun. Checked on the map. It turns out that your shop is like, a mile or two down the road from I work for as a site in your town. So next time I'm up there, I'm going to come and find you, I think. But until then, you're safe from me because of the COVID, I guess. But still, yeah, definitely cool to have you on, Fran, and great to hear your feedback. All right, we got a simple one coming up next from Carl Von Winkle. And Carl just says, keep up the good work. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Carl.
Always glad to have that one.
Nice to hear.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. These are more towards the listener question of the month. Last month, of course, was when do you prefer to use an emulator? Hugo DeFort says, I use an emulator if I want to play a game which uses the keyboard as controller. I find it less creaky than the CoCo keyboard. Okay, that's good feedback. Definitely worth knowing, or that to experience that differently with the emulator. So that's cool. Next one comes from Simon Jonason, who says, I use an EMU when developing, as it's extremely easy to just assemble and test without having to transfer to floppy or SD or use drive wire. So, yeah, I can get that. Definitely it helps in that edit, assemble, load, test kind of cycle. Thanks, Simon. We have a link to the responses we got on the Facebook group there, so be sure to check it out. So what is our question of the month this month? What is the level of experience, CoCo experience in our audience? And so I've proposed 4 categories. Some people will like them. Some people will hate them. That's okay. Feel free to send feedback on how you feel about them as categories. But categories I propose: veteran, so that's somebody who's been in the hobby forever and knows everybody in the hobby and whatever. If you were on the CoCo mailing list back in 91 or something like that, then you're probably a veteran. An alumni or alumnus, I guess, I would equate as somebody who was using the CoCo back in, 89, 90, whatever, and actually using it, but fell off, and now you're back. You're still got a lot of stuff or cool stuff or a lot of cool memories or whatever, but you weren't a continuous hobbyist, but you were pretty serious back in the day. Next category I propose, I'm calling it tourist. So that's somebody who really big into, the VIC-20 or the Apple II or something like that, a TI-99. But for whatever reason, maybe you picked up a CoCo at a thrift store or something. If you've taken an interest, you've become excited enough to at least listen to the podcast and interact a little bit, whatever, maybe come to CoCo Fest. The CoCo maybe isn't your main retro computer, but it's something you've taken an interest in. And then the fourth category I've devised, calling it then, maybe this is a little bit dismissive or whatever, but the term I'm using is newbie. This is the equivalent of when you're playing Doom and you have the can I play Daddy setting for difficulty. So if you're just somehow somebody gave you a CoCo and you said, well, let's research this, and you Googled twice and came up with the podcast or whatever, that's you. So which category do you fall into? Are you a veteran, an alumni, a tourist, or a newbie? Is there some other category that I'm missing that you'd like to propose a topic for? Or am I just totally full of it? Why, how dare I even ask? And, what kind of privilege or whatever do I think I have to ask this at all? I'd love to hear your feedback, what your thoughts are. Again, veteran, alumni, tourist, or newbie. your own category, or I'm stupid for asking in the first place. Whichever. Let's hear from you. That's feedback, FEEDBACK, at CoCoCrew.org, COCREW.org. All right. Well, look forward to hearing from you. Yeah, I think that's the end of our feedback segment. So why don't we take a little break, and I think we'll be back with, the rest of the show.
We've teamed up with the Open EEG Project to bring you an exciting new product, CoCo Dreamer. For centuries, we've known that the secrets of the mind are revealed through dreams. Unfortunately, when we awake, our brains know that our dream experiences aren't real and pushes them from our memory automatically. But now there's CoCo Dreamer, a dream journal and sophisticated REM sleep monitor. Simply insert the EEG cart into your CoCo 3's multi-pack interface, attach the electrodes, and go to sleep as you normally would.
I had no idea how revealing my dreams really were.
I was pretty skeptical at first, but just a week of recording my dreams with CoCo Dreamer, and I gained a new outlook on life.
The Dream Journal allows me to easily track how many times I see bananas in my dreams.
As you sleep, CoCo Dreamer monitors your heart rate to detect REM sleep. In alert mode, CoCo Dreamer will wake you so that you can immediately record your dream in the dream editor.
I could see clear patterns within the first week. I kept seeing bananas in my dreams. Long story short, I now have a pet monkey, and thanks to CoCo Dreamer, a window into my unconscious mind.
I even did something that surprised myself. I finally got my exotic animal license, and I brought home my first pet monkey.
In lucid dream mode, CoCo Dreamer will send a mild electrical shock to trigger lucid dreaming.
I initially used CoCo Dreamer's alarm mode to gain insight into my dreams, but since then, I've changed to using lucid mode. Now, when I enter REM sleep, CoCo Dreamer makes me aware of it by sending a mild electrical shock.
You simply must experience CoCo Dreamer for yourself. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
I felt more confident. CoCo Dreamer has really improved my quality of life.
It was easy to set up, and the electrodes connect without any hassle. CoCo Dreamer has changed my world.
Long story short, I now have a pet monkey, and I feel more at peace than ever before.
Unlock the mysteries of your subconscious mind with CoCo Dreamer. Available wherever fine color computer software is sold. Look for the brightly marked yellow box with a cute monkey eating a banana. CoCo Dreamer from Monkeysoft.
All right, welcome back, CoCo Cruisers. Now it's time for our host discussion. Unfortunately, Boise is still off dealing with his weather event. It's going to be the three of us. So it's, of course, me, John, Neil. Hello, Neil.
Hello.
Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
And, so we've got the topic that I've proposed for today. And the way I've worded it, at what point do core upgrades distort the hobby? So what do I mean? Core upgrades, things like processor upgrades, go into a 6309, whatever, or beyond. What if you could stick an ARM processor into a CoCo? Memory upgrades, well, 64K, well, we had that back in the day. We had 2 meg back in the day. Some people had 8 meg. What if you could stick in 64 meg or 512 meg or something like that? Other things like upgrading your video output format to HDMI or whatever, well, that's one thing. But changing the video capabilities completely, so you have new resolutions, new colors, whatever, things like the Gimme X. Effectively, especially if you have a 6309 and the Gimme X, you kind of have a new computer, especially if you've got 8 or 64 meg or something in there. So this is kind of a what is a CoCo kind of question. If everybody has to have a hot rod machine, how does that change the hobby? Does it change the hobby? Is it okay to change the hobby? I guess it is. I don't know. I guess that's where we're going. At what point does it distort the hobby? If 3 guys go off and decide to upgrade the CPUs, they need some software to make them run, but they've all got their own demo software, so they can show you their hot-rodded CPUs, but that's it. Well, that's not really going to affect the hobby very much, right? But if suddenly, it's somehow that's the new standard or whatever, and, you have to have the big memory upgrade or the 6309 or other CPU upgrade for anybody writing any new software, or do you run any new software because that's the only thing anyone's writing for? How does that change the hobby? Is that a distortion? Is that a bubble? Is that, I don't know. What is that? And are we anywhere near that at this point? I think it's probably no, not generally, but maybe in some areas. So who wants to start?
I think it changes the hobby if this new hardware breaks the old software, where old stuff doesn't run anymore.
Right.
Because I mean, then you change the whole platform at that point.
Right. That's
my opinion on it, anyhow. I mean, if you're just adding extensions and more memory and faster CPU, well, that's one thing. But if that becomes a new standard and the old stuff doesn't work anymore, I mean, that's a whole different platform.
You kind of got two things there. One is if the new hardware doesn't support the old software, but then also if the new hardware becomes prevalent in ways that the people demand new software that only runs on the new hardware, does that change things?
Right.
It's kind of two separate questions, really.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point about the compatibility. I'm going to go back to my, like we often do, go back to the car hobby analogy.
Okay.
I don't think any of it really distorts the hobby. Maybe it fragments it to some slight degree, but I don't think it really, I think there's room enough for everybody to do what they want to do. But, it's just like cars. Some people like old cars and they like everything original. They want something vintage, and that's their thing. And some people may want something more modern, but they want to put a bigger engine in it or put bigger tires on it or whatever. And maybe that's kind of where level at. And then you've got the extreme where you've got, funny cars and monster trucks and things that you would say are completely impractical, but people enjoy, pushing them to the limits to everything that they can do. So I think there's room enough. Now, obviously, the more you fragment the hobby, you probably tend to have some smaller groups that are into various things. But in the long run, I don't really think that damages everything because you have your pick of what you want to do.
Well, that's certainly true. It always comes back to some degree, like you said, there's the fragmentation. As someone who might write new software, has written new software for the CoCo, it's already kind of a which set do you want to write for, CoCo 1 and 2, or do you want to write for the CoCo 3? You can say, well, CoCo 3 can run a lot of the stuff that you will run on the CoCo 1 and 2, and it will run a lot of it. It won't run all of it. If you do target the CoCo 3 at all, then there'll be a certain demand for CoCo 3 specific features that you can't do on the CoCo 1 and 2. And like in the game world, it might be just supporting the second button on the joystick, or it might be certainly higher resolution graphics, or maybe interrupt-driven sound that's not really as practical on the CoCo 1 and 2. So we already have a certain amount of fragmentation just with our legacy from Radio Shack. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a certain coolness to some of the upgrades. And I'm sure it was very cool. I know the first time I heard about the 6309 as a possible upgrade, that sounded really cool, and boy, I want to do that. And that's fine. But, even here now, 30 years later, not everybody has a 6309, despite what some people would suggest. And certainly not every CoCo that's out there has one. Maybe everybody that's listening to this podcast has at least one. Well, that's possible, but our numbers are big enough. I don't think that's probably true either. But
that brings up a good point, because maybe that's really maybe a danger, is people arbitrarily saying, well, this is now the standard, because there's room enough for everybody. You're going to have the people that want the 40s stuff. There are people that want the original thing. They don't want it modified, and they want to push it to its limits. They want a CoCo 1 with a chiclet keyboard. They want to push that to its limit, and and that's great. So there should be room for everybody. I think it's kind of silly to go and say, well, you have to have X memory and you have to have CoCo SDC, and if you don't have that, then why waste your time? I think that's silly.
Right.
Well, we definitely get people who show up and say, I don't know anything about the CoCo, but I just got one. Tell me what all the upgrades are. and they show up. It's like they've got their wallet out, and they want to buy whatever they can get and throw it in there. And I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't feel like I fit that category, but I can see where it might be fun from a different perspective or whatever, right? When those people show up, then there's always somebody who'll give them a laundry list. CoCo SDC, a 6809, a 2 meg upgrade, this and that, whatever. And it's fine if you to tell them what's available, right? Certainly helps support some of those upgrades that people wanted that, have made available at prices that were cheaper than they might otherwise have been. partly because they can sell them to a broader audience. But like you say, when you create that impression of, I guess when you say the standard is this, then if I don't have that, well, then I'm substandard, right? And
you might lose people to the community if they.
So in the modern world, the woke world or whatever, we've all been taught that telling people they're substandard is it's not a good thing to do. Which hopefully we already knew that to some degree. But I'm always concerned that it creates this notion that somehow it's a gatekeeping thing, and that somehow if you're the gatekeeper, you get to decide that only CoCo 3s with 512K. Are worth dealing with, and so the people who only have a CoCo 2, or the people who only have a Brazilian clone or whatever they have, they only have 16K of RAM, but they're still running Color Basic, whatever. They're still programming in Basic on it. I don't know. It's like telling them, well, that's nice, but we don't want to hear from you. Call us back when you've bought more stuff or something. It just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
And also, if someone might write a program, I might write something cool. I mean, like Farfall is only ever crossed like 4K when I put music in it. You know what I mean? It never required 64K.
Right.
I guess I don't like the gatekeeping.
I guess an example I'm thinking of is when someone comes on and says, "Oh, I just got this CoCo at a yard sale. How do I get the cassette to work?"
Right.
It's fine to say there's all this great stuff available, but you shouldn't turn them off, or you should at least answer his question and say, well, here's how you get the cassette to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So to come back to, are you more interested in core upgrades or peripherals? I'd kind of rather see the peripherals. I guess what it comes down to, things like, I like to see the cool new joysticks. I think the joysticks, the things that allow you to use other controllers in place of the CoCo joysticks. Pretty cool stuff. I really don't need anything that gives me super duper 16-bit graphics or 32-bit graphics or whatever on my CoCo. If I want a 16-bit graphics, I'd be using an Amiga.
Yeah.
So I don't really get that.
And it's something else to add that it's just a mention about your Farfall taking 4K. I've been reading a lot of CoCo magazines lately. I don't know why. I'm just getting into them, but I'm particularly reading ones from 85 and down. And I'm noticing that most of all the software, and I mean good games too, worked with 32K. I mean, that was like the max. So, I mean, even a lot of stuff worked with 16K.
Yeah, there's a ton that worked with 16K. And understandably, it grew as the complexity of things, but
right.
It was just good, tight machine code. That's why.
Yeah. And that's amazing. It's just something I noted, when I was reading all these magazines lately, that just, you really don't need even 64K on a CoCo 2 for most stuff.
Sure.
Well, like I've said at least to a few people, it's like, if the first thing you got to do with your CoCo is replace the processor and then replace the graphics chip, and then stuff it with more memory than it ever could work with back in the day. Why didn't you just buy a different computer? Because it seems like you don't like the CoCo very much.
There definitely is a crowd of people that are interested in that, and that's fine. They should pursue that, and it's available. And the people developing like Gimme X are definitely heavily involved in it, and they're getting something out of it, and they like it. So. I guess it comes back to it's a big go for what you're interested in, and it's not a crime if you're not interested in that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the thing is that it seems like we get so much advocation for like you say, the gatekeeping of you need a bigger system if you're going to play with us. I like to still be an advocate for the people who have the small systems, and I think they should be allowed to play with us too, and not have to feel guilty about it or whatever. They're not bringing us down. In some ways, a bigger part of the community is the smaller machines, because that's when I really struggled to deal with to do cool stuff with computers back in the day. I don't know. Like you say, I hate that it's one of those where you still have to come back and say, I'm not telling you can't upgrade your computer. This is America. You're allowed to do things. You own the computer. I can't believe I still have to do that, but I know we probably do still have to say that because some people read in what they want to, especially when they're trying make whatever statement they're trying to make. No one is telling you how to play with your CoCo. Go CoCo however you want to. That's fine. I'm just telling you what I get it and don't get, and how I see it and how I think other people see it. I don't think gatekeeping is all that cool. 32K is enough for me. 16K is enough for me. If you got a reason to go over that, fine. There's plenty of people with computers that are big enough to take it. To me, the CoCo is always, it's a retro computer. It's a small thing with limitations. That's why I love it. Any other thoughts?
There's a large part of the community that's also interested in hardware. That's really their thing about the CoCo. They're trying to, extend the hardware, push the hardware out.
Actual
so
hardware
like
development. Yeah.
Right. And the Gimme X is all about that, of course. It's about the hardware development, and people are excited to use it. Well,
that's the part of Gimme X I do get, is the development of it. That sounds kind of fun and exciting. The actual using it, it's like, well, that's fine. And it's great. And whatever. I guess it just doesn't excite me very much because, I like the CoCo for what it is, and that's how I want to use it.
And some people are driven by novelty. They want the newest, they want the latest, they want the greatest. So
well, sure,
I'll just keep going back to the car analogy because that's the most apt.
They want the horn that when you play the horn, it goes.
Yeah. Exactly. Or they want the fuzzy dice. More power to them.
Well, there you go. Can we beat this one to death? All right. Well, what do you guys think? What is your interest? Do you want to see more and more core upgrades? Do you want to see new peripherals, new joysticks, new printers, new other things to plug into your CoCo? Do you want everything to require 512K or 6309, or do you still want software developed for the smaller machines? What do you think? Send us some feedback. Again, that's show@cococrew.org or podcast@cococrew.org or feedback@cococrew.org. Whether you agree with us or don't agree with us, we'd still like to hear from you. So let us know what you're thinking. All right. Well, we're going to draw this discussion to a close, and then we'll be back with whatever's left in the show.
Were your taxes a mess last year? Do you look at your bank balance and wonder where all the money went? Then you need CoCo Accountant 2. This home and small business accounting program is all you need to answer the 3 big questions about your money. Where did it come from? Where did it go? And what can I deduct from my taxes? Spend a few minutes with your canceled checks, credit cards, receipts, and payroll stubs. The 32K tape version stores 450 entries in a single file, 500 for disk. The 64K version stores 900 entries on tape or disk. Our happy customers say this is the most useful program they own, and you'll agree. Only $34.95, tape or disk. CoCo Accountant 2 from Federal Hill Software. Fine products for the Color Computer, Dragon, and MC10.
Come to the Radio Shack hideout. I'm Mr. Small, and I'm tired of big computers. Give me something that's really, really small.
MC10 is small. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not big. No, no, no. MC10's got just 4K bytes. Tiny metal keys in a case that's white.
Radio Shack's MC10 combined with any color television gives you a big system in a tiny package.
4K bytes, they feel right. Tiny metal keys in a case that's white.
All right, CoCo Cruisers, welcome to this month's interview. We've got someone new, Mr. Curtis Kaylor. We mentioned Curtis in the news segment, and he is apparently an aficionado of the TP10 printer and or the MC10 or both. We thought that was cool, so we invited him on just to have a little chat and see what's up. So, welcome, Curtis. Hello.
Hello.
And, of course, I'm joined, this is John, and I'm joined with the regular hosts. So we've got Neil. Hello, Neil.
Hello, everyone.
Of course, Mike is on. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
And, of course, Mr. Boise. Hello, Boise.
Hello, everybody.
So, Curtis, I have to admit I'm not familiar with you or your name. I don't think we've ever spoken before. Are you new to the community?
I'm kind of new to the, I guess, kind of on and off. There was a Yahoo group, I believe, 20 years ago, maybe. So I was somewhat active in that. And basically in the 8-bit community on and off. I'm just interested in most 8-bit computers. started out in 1981 in high school. We were working on a TRS-80 Model 1. We had TRS-80s and Model 1s and color computers in my high school.
So you've written a simulator for the TP10 printer. Is that something you're using with the MC10 or just for fun?
It was kind of just fun to see if I could do it. I did it on MC10 at one time. It ended up being gone in one of my purges because you can only have so much stuff at a time. But it was always fascinated me. And I forget what somebody mentioned the TP10, I think, in the Facebook group. And anyways, I was looking at pictures of it, and I saw a couple of websites where they actually had a photo of the printout of the computer at the printout. I'm looking at that, and I've seen other projects where they emulate punch cards or line printers or even video terminals. And I thought, well, that like type style, that font, that's something I'd be emulate. I've been writing MC10 programs using virtual MC10 and just on the output to a text file, which is okay, but I thought it would really be cool to be able to take that text file that it outputs and convert that into an image that looks like the printout from a TP10.
Yeah, cool. What language are you using for your implementation?
I'm using Python.
In Python, yeah, cool. Does it interface with the emulator, or
it does not interface with the emulator? You basically use print to a file. The script reads that text file and uses that, processes the control code, and creates an image. Still working on getting it perfect, but that creates an image that looks like what comes out of TP10. But it's basically just reading a text file right now. Some point I might modify it so that it will use like standard input. It'll like be able to pipe to it, and at that point, if the emulator were to support writing to a pipe to another program, then it could be the interface to it.
Well, that's pretty trick, man. That's pretty cool.
The text file you're talking about, that controls that contains like all the control codes for the TP10 as well.
Right. Okay, yeah. Yes. So one thing that is specific right now in the implementation is that you have to, when you use a virtual MC10, you're writing to the text file. You have to unclick the send line feed with carriage return, because DOS uses carriage return line feed, but the TP10 is not necessarily expecting that. It treats characters, returns, and line feeds differently. But yeah, so just read the text files. There's only a handful of control codes in the TP10. There's one to do expanded print, like double wide, and then to turn it back to normal. There's carriage return. There's a line feed. There's a different code that's a carriage return without line feed, and then there's a repeat code. You can send a control character, and then another byte that says how many times to repeat, and then the third byte is the character to repeat. Implemented all those.
Cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Except that, the carriage return without line feed isn't working quite correctly yet. That actually allows overprinting. When you send a carriage return without line feed, you can actually overprint. So you can do things like underline, bring an underline, strike through. And it's going to take a little more work because with the way that the Python image library I use works, it's going to take a little more work to get those images to combine. But that's one of the things I definitely want to do, so it'll work everything like. And I've got one guy in the group, can't remember his name, but I don't own a TP10 or an MC10 or even a CoCo, but one of the guys in the group has a TP10, and he's been running test programs for me, where I give him test programs to do the control codes, and then he takes a picture of the output. So that's been helpful.
That sounds like Ron Klein. Is that who that is?
Yes, that's right, Ron Klein.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Ron.
So it's interesting you looking at your output on Facebook. What did you have to do to get the different dots per inch to make it look just like the TP10?
So what I did was I started out with just looking at what I did, because it's a 5x7 print matrix. So it's a 7-head printer. It's a 7-pin printer. And like all printers of that era, like most dot matrix printers, like just about all 7-pin printers, there's always space between the pins. So The first thing I did was I just looked at the thing and I created a stock image in Microsoft Paint where it was there's also spaces in between the characters. The actual cell that it uses on the paper is, I believe, 7 wide or 8 wide. No, 7 pixels wide and 12 pixels high because there's a, space in between them. So first I just did that, and I made just a 72, and I believe it all runs at 72 dots per inch is what it looks like. So I just assumed 72 dots per inch, and I created the first file, which was just the 5x7 character matrices, and then the 7x12 for the graphics characters, the block graphics. And I'm like, well, that looks all right, but I'd like it, it'll look more like the real thing. So then what I did was I created a 600 dots per inch image, where the character swells were 4 times. So basically there were a 4x4 pixel square for each of the actual pixels of the TP10. And then so the pixel itself is a 3x3 square, black 3x3 square black pixels within a 4x4 area. And that gives me that one little space in between each pixel.
Wow, that's cool.
I started drawing the stuff a few months back, and then forgot about it. And then I don't remember what I was doing. I was looking up something on the MC10, and I saw these images, and I'm like, I should start on this project again. And last Wednesday I wasn't working, and I finished the images and I converted them into data that I could include in the Python program. Then I wrote several hundred lines of code in a day. So I just kind of got hyper-focused and spent most of the day writing the first draft of the program.
It looks pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of how I emulated a printer on DriveWire.
I'll have to take a look at DriveWire and see how it works, because it should be possible to interface this the TP10 emulator to DriveWire as well.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it. And it would just be basically having the server interpret the codes, kind of like what you're already doing, and
right.
putting it out to a file or something on the PC or whatever, a bitmap.
Yeah, the most current one is called PyDriveWire, and it's all written in Python. So,
all right, well, that makes
right up your alley anyway.
Yeah, that might be something you want to look into, Curtis.
Python. When I wrote the Python program, I'm writing it both as a standalone utility and as a module, a Python module.
Yeah, that's cool.
You can import it and then call the print call the print. I think it's a print. There's like a TP10 class. And then you can just call the print method. It actually returns an image. It's the pillow library. It returns a pillow image object, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
Right, you're right. You can email it. You can print it out even if you want to at that point on the PC.
Yeah, you can save it as a JPEG, because Pillow lets you save it as any kind of image file or do whatever you want with it. So
that's really cool. Fantastic work.
Thanks.
Cool. Made reference to another project that you've got on GitHub, low-res image.
Yeah, low-res image, and that's a thing I came up with a long time ago, like 1989, 1990, back when GIF was becoming popular, actually. GIF was like the only universal graphics file format at the time. Well, there was one other, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but CompuServe had an image format called RLE, which was
Oh yeah,
I
remember RLE.
RLE.
Run liquid coding.
Yeah. So the .RLE files, and I actually wrote a Python program that will display those as well a couple of years ago. But anyway, there was RLE, and then there was GIF. And those were all great for RLE would work on anything. GIFs were designed for PCs, IBM PCs. GIFs were designed really around EGA and VGA graphics. And GIFs really didn't display well on 8-bit computers. And I wanted something that would display on just about any 8-bit. And the one thing they almost all of them had in common, we're talking the CoCo and the MC10, all the Commodore 8-bits from the PET on up, the Mattel Aquarius, and even the Atari 800. They all had those 4x4 block characters that let you do, and the Sinclair ZX81, Timex Sinclair 1000, the Sinclair Spectrum, those all had the same thing. In some machines, that's the only way you could do graphics. So I decided, I thought it would be cool to come with an image format that took those blocks, those graphics characters, and encoded them into like an ASCII format, into a simple ASCII format that, any computer could understand. And then I decided to make it 16 by 16. The VIC-20 only has 22 columns. So the most I would have been able to do is 22 parts. So I just made it 16 by 16. Characters just made it 32 by 32.
Right.
And the Commodore 64, I think, used 24 pixel by 21 pixel sprites. So I had already stolen a bunch of sprites from games and stuff from various places in my Commodore 64. So that was my basis for creating these files back then. And I actually developed a format where basically it's just encoded as letters. An empty block is an A. Basically, I just convert characters from 0 to 16, map them from A to P. And it worked out pretty well. And then I added a REM-link encoding compression, where if you have a digit from 2 to 9, that just says repeat the next character that many times. And then I added color, because, a lot of the computers have color. So I just went with the 7 basic colors, and I encoded those as the letters Q through whatever. Mm-hmm. And but that project, got lost a long time ago. So I decided a few months ago to resurrect that one as well. I mean, I remembered the format was simple enough that I remembered how I did it. So I went ahead and implemented it. And the first machine I did it on, because I'd been playing around with that virtual MC10, the first machine I did it on was MC10.
Well, so what's next? What other projects have you got in mind?
Well, I guess what I'm working on, the next thing I want to work on is somebody was, I forget who it was, somebody was on the Facebook group trying to get an inverse space onto the screen of the MC10. We're figuring out that you have to do a poke in order to get that, because you can only get a print command. The print character string will only give you the inverse letter, will only give you inverse basically letters and the symbols, basically the characters from ASCII 64 to 95. You can't, the inverse characters 32 to 63 to print using a print character string command. The basic interpreter just ignores it basically. So today I was actually digging around doing some experimentation with MC10, looking at what the characters were and how they mapped and everything. So, and then made some notes. So I'm going to write up a little text document about how everything gets mapped and some code to convert from ASCII to poke code without inverting.
Well, Curtis, we'll appreciate your time. Tell us about your projects, especially your TP10 emulation project that got us interested. It's really cool. And some of the other history and stuff was definitely fun to hear. Appreciate you coming on, and thank you for joining for the CoCo Crew.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
The color computer is a powerful home computer, but if you've tried writing programs, you'll quickly learn that editing is tedious and requires either perfection or a lot of retyping. Stop suffering. Get the WorkSaver from Platinum Software. The WorkSaver features full-screen editing. Simply use arrow keys to move to anywhere on the screen and instantly make changes to your code. Change line numbers, join lines together, duplicate lines and place them anywhere in your code. Bring up arrays on screen and edit them directly. Use two-stroke sequences for full keywords. Enjoy automatic line numbering and a numeric keypad. These powerful features and many more are made even easier with the included keyboard template.
I was excited about the idea behind it. I was curious whether or not it was going to be able to execute like it said it was going to. Absolutely flawless. I'm super happy with the quality. I'm super happy with the overall engineering of this. And obviously, I'm even more happy with what it gets done, how well it does it, and the short amount of time it takes.
The WorkSaver is just $30 plus shipping and handling and includes a 28-page manual plus the keyboard template. Save yourself hours of typing and make your programming experience what it should have been in the first place with the WorkSaver, only from Platinum Software. Plattsburgh, New York.
Speed Racer from Mistron. Speed Racer is a supercar race game that puts you behind the wheel with incredible scrolling 3D graphics. It's simply the finest car race game ever written for the CoCo. Just $34.95 Discord tape, 32K required. From Mistron.
Welcome back to Neil's Corner on episode 63 of the CoCo Crew Podcast. Kind of a coincidence, but my segment this month corresponds a little to the host discussion we had earlier. I've been spending a lot of time lately reading old color computer magazines from 1985 and down. I've been reading Hot Cocoa, Color Computer Magazine, and Rainbow. One main thing I've found in common reading these are the advertisements for the hot ticket CoCo games. Most of all the games, and even the application utilities, such as word processors, they don't require more than 32K of memory. In fact, a lot of the titles only require 16. Now I realize that there are some of the later CoCo 1 and 2 games that require 64K, and applications such as the famous Telewriter 64 that will take advantage of a CoCo with 64K, however it is not required. And just to name a few, how about some of these glorious animated full graphic adventure games such as Shenanigans, Sequest, Clickstone Island? Those all require 32K. How about these arcade classics? Cubix, Zaxxon, and The King. All of those require 32K. Or Ghost Gobbler, requiring only 16K. And if you want to try something new, you can play John Linville's Farfall game, requiring less than 16K. Actually, I believe the original non-GMC version will run on a 4K CoCo because it's being loaded from a ROM cart, requiring even less memory. The point I'm trying to make is if you want to get into the CoCo hobby, or if you already have an old CoCo stored away somewhere in your house, you don't need to spend a lot of money to enjoy getting into this hobby. A setup something as simple as a CoCo 1 or 2 with 32K in memory and a cassette tape interface cable plugged into your laptop for loading in programs is all you need to get started. Or you can go the DriveWire route and get an inexpensive DriveWire serial cable that attaches to the serial port on your PC. With DriveWire, you can host disk images. DriveWire cables can be purchased for $20 directly from Cloud9. Well, there you have it. If you're listening to this and you've been thinking about obtaining real CoCo hardware or getting into the hobby, you don't need to spend a fortune. And now you have 2 options to get started. Until next month, happy CoCoing and retro forever.
New from Carriage Return New Line Cinema.
Good morning, Major.
Sir, why was I brought here?
What you're about to hear is classified top secret presidential.
What is this place?
This is where you'll train. Major, the war isn't going well for Earth.
This is the aliens' newest attack ship, the TRG-5. We need you to infiltrate the alien base, steal the core components, and then return them for analysis.
Pay attention, Major. Your suit will absorb radiation, but only a limited amount. There are 3 decontamination chambers in the facility. It's critical that you reach each one if you want to live.
We only have 4 weeks to prep for this.
What do you need from me?
Your best, Major.
Major, do you hear that sound? That sound means you're dead. Too much radiation. Reset your suit and try again.
Why did you pick me?
Because I think you're the best man for the job. Because we've only got 1 shot at this.
What if I fail?
Then we all die.
Power up your suit, Major. This is your electro gun. Aim it and fire. Holy shit, Major. Remember, each time you fire your weapon and use your cloak, you're exposing your suit to even more radiation.
Major, it's time.
I've reached the access point. Wish me luck. I'm going in.
Shock Trooper rated CoCo 13.
Well, we have reached the end of episode 63 on the CoCo Crew Podcast. Big thanks goes out to our host, John Linville, for procuring all those news articles each month, Mike Rowan for painstakingly editing the podcast and creating new commercials, Boise Pete, our CoCo historian. He remembers it, so you don't have to. Special thanks to Curtis Kaylor for giving us some of your time to record an interview with you. Last but not least, a huge thanks to all of you who listen and support us each month, and we also appreciate getting your feedback. Until next month, happy CoCoing and retro forever.
It's a blast from the past.
Please listen carefully.
CoCo. 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 CoCo.
Dance like there's no tomorrow.
What is this crazy rock and roll music anyway?
It's a blast from the past.
Dance, dance, dance. Dance, dance, dance. CoCo. CoCo.